We start with a man biting his lips, all mixed up and confused about what's happening. As he looks in the mirror, he realizes he has the face of the fourth young master of the demonic cult. He began to wonder what kind of crazy situation this was. Frustration took over, and he screamed, questioning why he had to be the weakest villain in the martial arts novel he wrote. He couldn't fathom why he had to be the infamous Hyuk Ryun Woon. Sitting on the bed, he made a decision to calm down for the moment. It's then revealed that his real name is Lee Si-woon. He's a 32-year-old man residing in South Korea. Wondering how an ordinary guy like himself ended up inside a martial arts novel he had written, he began considering the peculiar events leading up to this moment. Reflecting on when he finished settling into his new house, he sensed something unusual must have occurred before all this. Then he recalled that right after settling in he had read about Yusura's accident in the news. It was right after that when his laptop accidentally tumbled to the ground. He murmured about how this work wasn't going to finish quietly. Approaching to check, he pondered why the laptop was switched on. Glancing at the screen, he saw the file, The Way of a Hero, displaying. He chuckled and mentioned it was his dark past, the novel he wrote a decade ago. Surprised it was still there, he thought about how long it had been since he last read this unfinished martial arts novel, penned during his college days. Staring at the screen, he was taken aback when he noticed something unusual. The message on the screen made him wonder if he was the one who wrote it. It said he had to return to the way of a hero. Before he could finish reading the message, he was met by a bright flash of light from the screen. When he woke up, he was stunned to discover himself in a completely different appearance. It hit him he should be relieved that, at the very least, he retained the memories of Hyuk Ryun Woon. He eventually came to accept that in this strange place, he was Hyuk Ryun Woon, the fourth son of the demonic cult leader. His consciousness had been lost for an entire month after a peculiar incident where he was riding, got scared of a bee, and toppled backward. Seated on the bed, a strange sensation washed over him. Suddenly, he began screaming, gripping his head in agony, desperately trying to comprehend the mysterious feeling engulfing him. Memories flooded his mind as he witnessed scenes from Hyuk Ryun Woon's past, partying with girls, kicking a beggar, arrogantly lounging on someone while ignoring training, and shamelessly demanding alcohol. A torrent of memories detailing everything Hyuk Ryun Woon had done so far rushed into his head, making it feel like his mind was about to burst. In that moment, he came to the stark realization that Hyuk Ryun Woon was truly a worthless scoundrel, even worse than he had initially expected. Standing there, he contemplated the real problem at hand and saw visions of himself being cut down by someone. Collapsed on the ground, he questioned why he had to possess such an insignificant character. He lamented, foreseeing his demise with a single strike from the main character, destined to pave the way for the hero. Reflecting on his role as a fleeting villain who disappears in the blink of an eye, he felt the weight of his own transitory existence. Terrified, he began contemplating that before meeting his demise, he must find a way to escape and return to his own world. The urgency fueled his thoughts as he realized he needed a solid plan. Kneeling on the floor, a realization dawned on him. Fortunately, being the fourth young master of the demonic cult, Hyuk Ryun Woon held a significant status. Despite his modern-day jerkish behavior, he possessed the wealth and influence comparable to a conglomerate heir or a prince. With these resources at his disposal, he figured he should be able to gather information about a way to return to his world. Filled with hope, he confidently believed that something like finding a way back should be a piece of cake. Shouting defiantly that whether it's the main character or whatnot, he wasn't going to die, he'd survive and return home no matter what. Unaware of his predicament, some servants overheard his proclamation and wondered if the fourth young master was truly going insane. Gazing into the mirror, he recognized that Hyuk Ryun Woon had an obnoxious face, and, above all, he was the weakest of the weak. Contemplating his options, he began to wonder if he should give martial arts a try. Standing in the room, he closed his eyes, and a peculiar sensation started to wash over him. Suddenly, he remembered it was the martial arts technique of the Hyuk Ryun family, the heavenly chaotic destruction sword technique. Intrigued, he closed his eyes and decided to give it another try. As he did, he realized a faint energy surrounding his body. He thought to himself that this must be chi. Taking a stance, he prepared to execute a martial art attack, focusing himself. He then leaped into the air and executed a slashing motion with his hand. Excitement surged through him, and just as he was about to declare its success, an unexpected surge of energy engulfed him. His triumphant expression shifted into a sudden scream of agony. In a sudden turn of events, he found himself twisted up on the floor, writhing in pain from a severe cramp. He screamed in agony, desperately calling for a doctor, and then, in his distress, began hollering for a physician. Responding to the desperate call, someone entered the room. A concerned individual, she entered and found him writhing on the floor. Twisted up and foaming at the mouth, she was horrified. In panic, she screamed out, calling after him. The scene shifts, and we find him lying down while someone performs acupuncture on him. Lying there, he realized he almost died because he tried a fancy martial art in a body not ready for it. His muscles got all twisted up as a result. He felt frustrated that the previous Hyuk Ryun Woon couldn't even master a single move properly. It was then explained that the technique he attempted, the Heavenly Chaotic Destruction Sword technique, is a technique exclusive to the Hyuk Ryun family, the ones who've produced the most leaders of the demonic cult. Not only has it been discontinued, but it's also incredibly challenging to learn. In addition to the huge amount of energy needed for its execution, the user must have a profound understanding of each move to use it properly. He pondered how Hyuk Ryun Woon consistently neglected his training, opting for easily learned martial arts. Recounting how Hyuk Ryun Woon never took inner chi or movement training seriously, it dawned on him that it's only natural for him to be weak. Getting up from the bed, he concluded that there's no way Hyuk Ryun Woon could master such a demanding martial art. Once again, he felt disappointed at the realization of inhabiting such a weak body. Now we see him walking towards a building. He believed there's no time to stay still, realizing he must quickly find a way to get stronger. Reaching the entrance of the building, he noticed a vast collection of books within. Upon entering, he began sifting through the books, eager to find something that could aid him on his quest for strength. Opening a book, a sense of relief washed over him as he realized he could read the Chinese characters. Deciding to concentrate on the present, he chose to delve into understanding more about the demonic cult. The members of the demonic cult don't refer to themselves by this name. They prefer to call themselves the Divine Cult, specifically the Sun Moon Divine Cult. Back in the Yuan dynasty, the Sun Moon Cult widely spread their name among the Han people who were undergoing hardships. They settled in the Central Plains, consolidating their forces and played a crucial role in supporting Zhu Yuanzhang's efforts to break free from the grasp of the Yuan dynasty. Eventually, Zhu Yuanzhang successfully overthrew the Yuan dynasty and established the Ming dynasty. Despite their earlier support, Zhu Yuanzhang, fearing the power of the Sun Moon Divine Cult, expelled them during the initial period of his reign. Later in Xinjiang, a distant region from the Central Plains, the surviving cult members struggled to survive. The third-generation cult leader, harboring deep resentment toward the Central Plains people for driving them out, gathered enough strength to make a triumphant return. However, his dream was thwarted by the combined forces of the Murim Alliance and the Imperial Army. Hyuk Ryun Woon, the 15th leader of the Sun Moon Divine Cult and Hyuk Ryun Woon's father, first subjugated the western region before directing his entire force towards the Central Plains. After reading this, Hyuk Ryun Woon gained a better understanding of why he, as Hyuk Ryun Woon, would fight against the protagonist. In the upcoming Heavenly Demonic Festival, Hyuk Ryun Woon will announce his plan to advance into the Central Plains and choose a successor. Since he was the one who wrote the story, Hyuk Ryun Woon already knew who the chosen successor would be. After the Heavenly Demonic Festival, the chosen successor will send a vanguard team to the Central Plains. Despite being horribly defeated during the successors contest, Hyuk Ryun Woon forces himself to join the vanguard team to make up for his mistake and heads to the Central Plains. He ridicules the still unknown protagonist and meets his end with a single strike. The harsh reality hits him. There are only 2 years left until the demonic festival, meaning he has 2 years remaining before meeting his demise at the hands of the protagonist. He began contemplating if there could be a way to escape this fate. He quickly grabbed a piece of paper and decided to jot down everything he remembered from the unfinished novel he wrote. The scene shifts, and we see an elderly man walking with a young woman. He turns to her and asks if the young master really wants to see him in the study. Nervously, she responded with a yes. Finding it odd, he thought that the young master is not someone who would go there. The woman told him that what's even weirder is that after he woke up, he screamed for long hours in an incomprehensible language. Now he's been writing in the study for hours. Surprised, the old man asked her if the young master is really writing, and she confirmed with a nod. The old man was left dumbstruck by the revelation. After recovering from his surprise, he instructed her to leave and not to tell anyone else about what the young master was doing. She agreed with a nod and left. The old man then hurried to the study. He came to a halt as soon as he reached the entrance. Standing at the entrance, he started to wonder if it was because the young master hadn't fully recovered yet. He pondered what he would do if he started acting like a crazy dog again. He entered and saw the young master on the floor, focused and writing. He asked him if he had called for him. Hearing the voice, the young master turned and addressed him by his name and title, which is Elder Quan. Elder Quan was shocked to see this and wondered if he had truly gone insane, as even the way he spoke had become gentle. Elder Quan thought about the past when he was disrespected by the young master, who would throw books at him and tell him to get out of sight. Hyuk Ryun Woon brought him a chair, and Elder Quan was even more surprised. He tensed, expecting that Hyuk Ryun Woon might hit him with it. Seeing Elder Quan's reaction made him wonder just how badly the Hyuk Ryun Woon in the past must have treated him for him to react like that. Both he and Elder Quan sat down, and the old man asked him if there was a problem. He asked the old man if he's only in charge of taking care of Hyuk Ryun Woon or if he's also responsible for his wallet. Elder Quan responded affirmatively, stating that he was in charge of both. He then asked if he sold everything he owned, how much cash could he get. Elder Quan, concerned, inquired if he had gotten into some sort of trouble and assured him that he would take care of it for him. Sighing, Elder Quan prepared to hear what kind of trouble it was this time. Hyuk Ryun Woon reassured him that he knows what he's thinking and affirmed that he hasn't caused any problems whatsoever. Surprised, Elder Quan then asked why he had suddenly inquired about how much money he owns. He responded by telling him that money was the ammo for getting things done. Elder Quan was confused, as he had no idea what ammo was. He told Elder Quan to ignore the unfamiliar term and simply disclose how much money he owns. Elder Quan, sweating nervously, then asked why. He responded by saying that if someone dies and comes back to life, at that point, even they should start thinking about what they have been doing with their life until now. He questioned why they bothered hoarding all those treasures when they can't use them in the afterlife. As he stood up, Elder Quan looked scared. He then told Elder Quan to hurry up and exchange everything for cold hard cash. Standing over Elder Quan, the old man, impressed by his stature, simply responded saying, "Understood." He held onto the elder's hands and entrusted everything to him. With a lot of work ahead, he urged Elder Quan to get started right away. As the old man exited the room, he reminded him to update the records of their finances and treasures. He emphasized keeping track of how much they get for selling each item. Looking back at Hyuk Ryun Woon, Elder Quan commented that the young master did die and come back to life. He observed that he seemed like a totally different person now and wondered if he was alright in the head. A few days later, we see Hyuk Ryun Woon laughing as he observes the massive amount he received from selling only the things he owned. Looking at the substantial amount, he still wasn't sure if it would be enough to implement his survival plan. With 2 years left to prepare for the Heavenly Demon Festival, he realized the urgency of cooking up a survival plan for himself within that time frame. While pacing around the room, he thought that if he were to convert Hyuk Ryun Woon's wealth into modern currency, it would be roughly around 2 billion won. He realized that it wasn't bad, but it wouldn't be enough. He started to think and went over how the Heavenly Demon Festival is in 2 years and the protagonist will come out of his training cave when the festival ends. That means he's safe for now. We are then given a flash of the protagonist's life. We see him being pushed off a cliff. After falling to the bottom, he finds a cave. Upon entering, he discovers elixirs and medicinal pills, along with a sword. All these items will help improve his strength. After receiving the protagonist's buff and becoming the world's strongest, a third-rate generic Murim story will begin. He pushed those thoughts aside and resolved to proceed to the next step. He decided to go to the Heavenly Demon Library, a place where all the martial arts that the divine cult has amassed over the years are stored. This is where he will learn the martial arts that will save his life. Upon entering, he realized that there were a lot fewer books than he expected. Recognizing this, he understood that it would take him some time to find what he needed. As he explored, he discovered just what he was searching for. It was the life-saving meditation technique. In The Way of the Hero, this technique sharpens one's senses, and it's exactly what he needs the most right now. Those who master this technique develop an exceptional sixth sense. With it, he could effortlessly evade attacks and make the most of openings. Furthermore, as this martial arts skill mature, not only will he sense his opponent's strength and emotional state, but he'll also be able to detect dangerous traps and ambushes. As for how he came to know about the technique, he reveals that the protagonist learns it around the middle of The Way of the Hero and becomes even more formidable. But this time, he's going to be the first to learn it, and that should greatly increase his chances of survival. However, once the protagonist learns the technique, he will surely be killed by him. He stumbled upon 2 more books, one detailing the scale armor technique and the other introducing the 9 Moons divine art. The scale armor technique boosts one's defense to a level where they can even block a sword without wearing armor. And the 9 Moons divine art has the power to multiply one's strength up to 9-fold. Excitement surged through him, believing that with these discoveries he had uncovered all the foundational martial arts he would need. He shouted that, for the sake of survival, he would dedicate himself to studying. We then shift scenes to a group of men drinking and enjoying their time with some women. One of the men asked another named Dan Pyong if he had heard about the wild rumors circulating lately. Dan Pyong asks him if there's anything more absurd than their very own lunatic Hyuk Ryun Woon supposedly coming back to life. The man responded that Hyuk Ryun Woon is still crazy, but there seems to be something different about his madness this time. Dan Pyong asked him what's different this time. The man responded, sharing that he heard when Hyuk Ryun Woon woke up, he went to visit him at the Western Villa. Surprisingly, a servant informed him that the young master was busy and would call for him when he's free. Dan Pyong commented, asking if he has ever been busy doing anything except drinking and throwing a fit. The man agreed and said that's why he checked on what he was busy with. He discovered that Hyuk Ryun Woon had locked himself inside the Heavenly Demon Library for days. Dan Pyong laughed upon hearing this, wondering if the unruly Hyuk Ryun Woon even knows how to read. He began to contemplate if Hyuk Ryun Woon was thinking of leaving the Four Heavens gang to make a name for himself. The man then started to wonder if Woon was contemplating entering the battle for succession at the Heavenly Demon Festival. Hearing this, Dan Pyong spat out his drink in surprise. He exclaimed that it must be a joke while slamming his cup on the table. He then shouted that if Hyuk Ryun Woon truly decides to join the battle for succession, he, Dan Pyong, will become his slave. He urged everyone present to be his witness. Upon hearing the declaration, some of the men laughed, while others warned him not to eat his words later on. As the others laughed, the man who started the conversation then wondered if the idea of Hyuk Ryun Woon joining the battle for succession was just a wishful thought. We switch back to Hyuk Ryun Woon, lying on the floor while reading. His ear started to itch, and he scratched it and thought that someone must be insulting him. He then thought that instead of trying to study on his own, it would be easier to learn martial arts from a teacher. He got up, stretched, and then ran off, declaring that if he needs a teacher, all he has to do is summon one. As he ran, he wondered why he hadn't thought of that before. Outside the library, an old man paced back and forth with visible restlessness. Suddenly, one of the guards announced, "The fourth young master is here." The old man turned around, his expression tinged with a touch of surprise. Upon arriving outside, Hyuk Ryun Woon promptly ordered the elder to gather all the people on the list and bring them to him with urgency. The old man, glancing at the list, inquired who these people were. He responded, saying that they are his teachers. The old man was a bit perplexed, and Hyuk Ryun Woon told him to simply bring them to him. He commanded the old man to bring them to his private training grounds, and the old man, with a skeptical tone, asked if he was referring to that apparent heap of trash. The old man, caught off guard, instinctively covered his mouth, his unintentional remark slipping out unexpectedly. In his mind, disappointment settled as the Hyuk Ryun Woon from the past had neglected to keep his training grounds clean. He then turned to the old man and asked how long it would take before the area was ready for use. With a confident nod, the old man confidently declared, he'll have it ready in a day, so he can make good use of it. As he walked away, the stench that clung to him reached his nose, and he couldn't help but notice how badly he smelled. Realizing he hadn't bathed since closing himself in the library, he muttered to himself that he really should get a shower. We switch scenes, and there's Hyuk Ryun Woon immersed in his bathtub. In the midst of his bath, Hyuk Ryun Woon is unexpectedly joined by two women offering to assist with his washing. With a subtle smile, they gracefully begin to undress. As they undressed, Hyuk Ryun Woon politely halted them, expressing his gratitude but declined their assistance. He firmly requested to be left alone. One of the girls questioned why he was asking them to leave. Hyuk Ryun Woon, holding his head down with blood running from his nose, urged them to hurry and get out. The girls stood there, looking at him, so he abruptly stood up and shouted at them, telling them to get the hell out. The girls screamed and hurriedly left. After his shower, he sat at a table, pondering how it was nearly impossible to find enjoyment when his life hung in the balance. With notes posted on his wall, he looked up, contemplating that to survive and return to the modern world, he would need a solid plan. Someone entered and reported that Secretary Jang Muriang had arrived. Hyuk Ryun Woon instructed the man to bring him in right away. Jang Muriang, already seated, pondered why the craziest delinquent in the divine cult had summoned him. He wondered if there was some dirt dug up on him and hoped that wasn't the case. Contemplating, he questioned what a lowly paper-pushing scholar of the demonic heaven pavilion could offer the fourth young master. Thinking about the rumors of the fourth young master's love for fancy things, Jang Muriang wondered why there were only books and papers around, expecting a more luxurious setup. Apologizing for the disorder in his room, Hyuk Ryun Woon admitted he would have preferred to find Jang Muriang in person instead of calling him. Expressing regret, he apologized for the inconvenience of the summons. Observing Hyuk Ryun Woon bow, Jang Muriang was shocked, equally surprised by the unexpected formality. Urging him to relax and speak more casually, he added that if he continued in such a formal manner, it might become mentally stressful for him. Hyuk Ryun Woon, acknowledging Jang Muriang's advice, decided to speak more casually as suggested. Following this, an awkward silence descended upon the room. Breaking the awkward silence, Hyuk Ryun Woon noted that Jang Muriang must be curious about the reason for his summons. He then revealed that it was due to Jang Muriang's expertise in a specific martial art. This revelation surprised the old man, who hadn't expected it to be the reason for the meeting. Hyuk Ryun Woon stood up and presented a book by slamming it down on the table in front of Jang Muriang. The book was titled The Longevity Meditation Method, an Introduction. After displaying the book, he went on to mention that he knew the Longevity Meditation Method was not just a beginner's guide but a book containing advanced theories. Emphasizing that one shouldn't underestimate a martial art's value due to its simplicity, he asked the old man if he was correct. Jang Muriang then inquired about what Hyuk Ryun Woon specifically wanted from him. He responded by stating that Jang Muriang is the author of the most detailed instruction manual for the first martial art that all members of the divine cult must learn, which is the Longevity Meditation Method. He expressed that although he had read the book, his understanding of it barely scratched the surface. Jang Muriang was profoundly taken aback by these words, and he stared in astonishment. Witnessing Jang Muriang's shock, Hyuk Ryun Woon took advantage of the moment. He stated that it's the reason he wants Jang Muriang to teach him, sitting on the table with an angelic smile. Jang Muriang was shocked to the core upon hearing this and urged Hyuk Ryun Woon not to say that. He questioned how he could possibly teach anything. Hyuk Ryun Woon, unfazed, asked if Jang Muriang had heard the rumors about him. Jang Muriang admitted that the rumors stated he was the weakest person in the history of the divine cult. They further claimed he bullied those weaker while groveling at those stronger and indulged in excess with wine and women. Realizing he might have said too much, the old man quickly clasped his mouth. Hyuk Ryun Woon reassured him not to worry. Expressing his aspiration to grow stronger, he voiced concerns about the divine cult's focus on rapidly mastering martial arts. He emphasized the importance of building a solid foundation over speed. Using the analogy of a tree, he said that a tree with a thin trunk breaks easily. Touched by these words, Jang Muriang burst into tears and wholeheartedly agreed. Hyuk Ryun Woon saw that Jang Muriang had taken the bait, and now he would deliver the final blow. He continued by mentioning the rumors that his viewpoint resembled the orthodox sex line of thought, not widely accepted in the divine cult. Confessing his internal struggle of going against the cult's ideals, he admitted feeling awful about it. Upon hearing Hyuk Ryun Woon's words, Jang Muriang was totally won over, and he just stood there with tears streaming down his face. As Hyuk Ryun Woon observed this, he pondered if he went too far. Seizing the moment, Jang Muriang went on a passionate rant. He shared how the imbalance in the divine cult's martial arts had driven him to formulate his own martial arts theory, yet no one had acknowledged his efforts. Despite this, he acknowledged that Hyuk Ryun Woon's idea carried the same essence as his. Jang Muriang found it incredible that the fourth young master could grasp and appreciate the theory he had dedicated his entire life to perfecting. Hyuk Ryun Woon quickly responded, saying he wouldn't go that far. Jang Muriang, feeling remorseful, bowed all the way down to the floor, suggesting that he should be punished for not recognizing Hyuk Ryun Woon's true character and believing in groundless rumors. Hyuk Ryun Woon placed his hand on Jang Muriang's shoulder, dismissing the idea and telling him that he is an indispensable member of the divine cult. He went on to express a desire for the old man to work with him in improving the cult's martial arts. With tears still in his eyes, Jang Muriang proclaimed that if he could be of help to the young master, he was willing to lay down his life for it. Expressing gratitude for the great honor bestowed upon him, he then changed the title he used for Hyuk Ryun Woon from Young Master to Lord. In his mind, Hyuk Ryun Woon reflected on how things went even better than expected. Witnessing Jang Muriang's unexpected display of emotions, he mused that the old man must have had a lot on his mind. The real reason he desired Secretary Jang as his teacher was that Jang Muriang was the greatest genius in the way of the hero, a figure destined to become the demonic tactician. With him, Hyuk Ryun Woon's chances of survival increased. He noted in his records that the recruitment for Jang Muriang was complete and considered it a good start. Jang Muriang, renowned as the greatest genius in the way of the hero, played a pivotal role in the protagonist's journey. After being chosen by the second young master as a companion, he became instrumental in leading the main character into a trap, earning him the nickname, the demonic tactician. After the main character's rival, the second young master, becomes the successor of the demonic cult and engages in war against the Murim alliance, Jang Muriang emerges as a significant figure playing a crucial role in the conflict. Hyuk Ryun Woon compared this development to the Three Kingdoms, likening it to the moment when Liu Bei acquired Zhuge Liang. Even though he wrote it himself, he couldn't help but acknowledge that it was a great scenario. Sitting on his bed, he contemplated his next move. Ultimately, feeling exhausted, he decided to get some sleep. Morning arrived, and we see Jang Muriang looking perplexed at all the materials Hyuk Ryun Woon had prepared. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that from today onward, Jang Muriang would be his martial arts teacher, and these materials were meant to assist him in his martial arts training. Jang Muriang, a bit perplexed while reviewing the information, commented that it was a very systematic and regular training plan. He noted that everything was detailed, covering basic physical fitness, dietary guidelines, rest routines, and even sleeping time and methods. He expressed that he had never seen this kind of training method before. In response, Hyuk Ryun Woon mentioned that he noticed a lack of systematic training in the divine cult, so he tried to address the issue in various ways. Hyuk Ryun Woon remarked that ultimately, it all began with eating. He emphasized that one's body is shaped by what they eat, how they move, and the quality of their rest. Jang Muriang was impressed and commented that the understanding that all martial arts ultimately come from a person's body was something he, holding onto martial arts for decades, had overlooked. This insight was now completely filled in by Hyuk Ryun Woon, someone who was an asshole until yesterday. In Hyuk Ryun Woon's mind, he acknowledged that he had simply based the plans on the exercise and diet of a normal gym in modern times, and yet Jang Muriang had fully bought into it. Hyuk Ryun Woon then urged the old man to study the training method together and find ways to improve the demonic cult's martial arts. The training session commenced with Hyuk Ryun Woon performing push-ups, diligently guided by Jang Muriang to ensure proper form. Transitioning seamlessly, he moved on to pull-ups, showcasing strength and endurance. The routine continued with dumbbell presses, each movement scrutinized by Jang Muriang. He thought about how after 2 weeks of training, Hyuk Ryun Woon realized he was already seeing results, perhaps owing to being the cult leader's son, blessed with a naturally adept body. Jang Muriang shouted out, informing him that only 1 lap remained. Observing Jang Muriang's adaptation of the training method to align with his martial art training, Hyuk Ryun Woon thought this adjustment was expected and believed that this modification would undoubtedly contribute to his growing strength. Shifting scenes, we find someone standing outside Hyuk Ryun Woon's residence, wondering about his activities. The person speculated that if Hyuk Ryun Woon had finished his usual business, he should be exiting a brothel by now. He then observed an old man nearby. Curious, he inquired if the 4th young master was inside. The old man responded, telling him that the young master was currently engrossed in training, a revelation that left the man utterly shocked. The old man went on to explain that Hyuk Ryun Woon had been dedicated to his training for 2 weeks. The man struggled to comprehend this information, as he had never witnessed the young master train, even during their time at the Heavenly Demonic Pavilion where they learned martial arts. In disbelief, he questioned if Hyuk Ryun Woon had truly gone insane. In an attempt to dismiss the notion, he suggested that the young master might be trying to keep the beauty he found all to himself. The old man reiterated that the young master was indeed training and invited the skeptical man to come to the training room if he didn't believe it. Standing there in stunned silence, the man couldn't believe what he had just heard from the old man. The revelation of Hyuk Ryun Woon engaging in training left him speechless and grappling with the unexpected reality before him. In the training room, Jang Muriang and Hyuk Ryun Woon were sparring. After a series of exchanges, Jang Muriang remarked that Hyuk Ryun Woon's martial arts had improved dramatically. Hyuk Ryun Woon chuckled in response and asked if it was truly the case. As the two continued their sparring, an interruption came in the form of someone asking what was going on. Hyuk Ryun Woon turned to see Sang Kwan-Hu and questioned why he was there. Sang Kwan-Hu, a member of the Four Heavens gang, was someone Hyuk Ryun Woon had kept at a distance due to their perceived uselessness in his survival plan. He hadn't anticipated any of them coming on their own. Sang Kwan-Hu inquired about what Hyuk Ryun Woon was doing and remarked on how he hadn't contacted them for quite some time. Hyuk Ryun Woon replied, asking if Sang Kwan-Hu couldn't tell that he had been training. Sang-Kwan, who questioned what he meant and asked if his head hadn't fully healed yet after dying and coming back to life. Hyuk Ryun Woon couldn't help but wonder what kind of jerk the past version of himself must have been for Sang-Kwan Hu to be worried like this. Sang-Kwan Hu, perplexed by the transformation in Hyuk Ryun Woon's demeanor, questioned whether he was truly the same person he knew. Observing the stark difference in his expression, Sang-Kwan Hu wondered if Hyuk Ryun Woon had become someone else entirely. Hyuk Ryun Woon, internally acknowledging Sang-Kwan Hu's sharp observation, marveled at how surprisingly perceptive he was. After realizing Sang-Kwan Hu's sharp observation, Hyuk Ryun Woon urged him to stop talking nonsense and leave as he was in a hurry. Sang-Kwan Hu, curious, asked why he was in such a hurry. Hyuk Ryun Woon responded by expressing his regret and emphasizing his commitment to living life to the fullest after returning from the dead. Turning to Secretary Jang, Hyuk Ryun Woon instructed him to let them spar once more. However, the old man couldn't endure any longer, holding his hip in pain. Realizing that they might have been overdoing it lately, Hyuk Ryun Woon took note of the strain on the elderly man. Hyuk Ryun Woon shifted his attention to Sang-Kwan Hu. He noted that Sang-Kwan Hu looked pretty fit and contemplated using him as a training partner. Deciding to test him, Hyuk Ryun Woon leaped into the air to launch an attack, leaving Sang-Kwan Hu shocked with a face filled with terror at the incoming assault. As the attack descended upon him, Sang-Kwan Hu quickly regained his composure and dodged. Surprised by this, Hyuk Ryun Woon decided to continue the attack. Sang-Kwan Hu then shouted at him to stop, but Hyuk Ryun Woon persisted with another punch and Sang-Kwan Hu dodged it again. Hyuk Ryun Woon, impressed, smirked at the display. Seeing that he didn't intend to stop, Sang-Kwan Hu got angry and threw a punch of his own, only for Hyuk Ryun Woon to deftly dodge it. After this exchange, Hyuk Ryun Woon asked if Sang-Kwan Hu was okay and inquired if it had been a while since he fought someone as well trained as him. He then suggested that Sang-Kwan Hu should try training with him. Sang-Kwan Hu wasn't sure what to make of these words. Hyuk Ryun Woon went on to elaborate, suggesting that Sang-Kwan Hu should try training with him for a month and also advised him to get his act together. Sang-Kwan Hu couldn't believe what he was hearing and exclaimed that Hyuk Ryun Woon was totally out of his mind. Hyuk Ryun Woon told Sang-Kwan Hu that if he became his training partner for 1 month, he would give Sang-Kwan Hu his coveted blue horse. This piqued Sang-Kwan Hu's interest, and Hyuk Ryun Woon assured him that he was dead serious. In his mind, Hyuk Ryun Woon considered that having Sang-Kwan Hu, one of the 4,000 losers, follow him would mean wherever he goes, Sang-Kwan Hu would have to suffer too. The next day, Sang-Kwan Hu was seen running, looking completely exhausted. While running, he called out to Hyuk Ryun Woon, calling him a bastard for putting him through this. Hyuk Ryun Woon, also running, simply mentioned that he's ahead of him and continued with the training. Sang-Kwan Hu shouted out, questioning the nature of the training and stating that he couldn't recall doing this kind of training before. Secretary Jang answered, explaining that improving basic physical strength also enhances internal strength. Sang-Kwan Hu dismissed this explanation, calling it nonsense. Meanwhile, Hyuk Ryun Woon, maintaining his pace, kept teasing Sang-Kwan Hu about being ahead. He couldn't help but be shocked by Hyuk Ryun Woon's speed and endurance as they continued the rigorous training. As Sang-Kwan Hu pondered on the situation, he realized that both he and Hyuk Ryun Woon, being from high-ranking families, had learned physical training and consumed numerous medical potions since childhood. Consequently, there was no emphasis on developing basic physical strength. However, he acknowledged that by re-establishing this foundation, the effectiveness of advanced methods and medicinal potions would increase, deepening their abilities. Despite the initial disbelief, Sang-Kwan Hu gradually recognized the rationale behind the training. Secretary Jang blew his whistle, signaling Hyuk Ryun Woon to stop running. As Sang-Kwan Hu caught up, he asked him if the whole ordeal was worth it. As Sang-Kwan Hu was about to answer, Secretary Jang blew the whistle again and informed him that he still had 5 laps remaining. Sang-Kwan Hu resumed running, and Hyuk Ryun Woon cheered him on, encouraging him for his efforts. With determination, Sang-Kwan Hu set his mind to conquer the challenge and claim the coveted blue horse as his reward. Secretary Jang showed Hyuk Ryun Woon some notes, and Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed surprise at the better-than-expected scores. Secretary Jang pondered if the written details could be applied to ordinary warriors as well. Observing Sang-Kwan Hu finishing his laps, Hyuk Ryun Woon reiterated that he considered this a good experiment with their current sample and was optimistic about obtaining answers within a month. A month later, we find Secretary Jang, Hyuk Ryun Woon, and Sang-Kwan Hu in the training room. Sang-Kwan Hu is on the floor, visibly exhausted. Hyuk Ryun Woon asks Secretary Jang if they've gathered all the necessary data. Secretary Jang affirms, stating they now have enough data to apply the training to ordinary warriors as well. While on the floor, Sang-Kwon-Hu mentions that it's been a month and requests his reward, the Blue Horse. Hyuk Ryun Woon commended Sang-Kwon-Hu for his efforts over the past month and informed him that the caretaker had been notified about the Blue Horse reward, suggesting that he could take it with him. Suddenly, Sang-Kwon-Hu jumped up and questioned whether Hyuk Ryun Woon was truly not possessed by someone else. He noted the significant difference in his demeanor compared to before. In his mind, Hyuk Ryun Woon acknowledged that even if he explained, Sang-Kwon-Hu wouldn't believe him. When Sang-Kwon-Hu questioned Hyuk Ryun Woon's strange behavior, he asked if it was related to joining the competition for succession. Hyuk Ryun Woon confirmed this, and Sang-Kwon-Hu asked if Hyuk Ryun Woon was serious about being a candidate for the divine sect successor. Hyuk Ryun Woon confirmed that it was not a joking matter and expressed that he is indeed in line as a potential successor. Worried about the potential consequences, Sang-Kwon-Hu grabbed him and cautioned that if these words were to reach his other brothers, they would swiftly take action to eliminate him. Sang-Kwon-Hu urged Hyuk Ryun Woon to revert to his previous way of life and abandon the pursuit of the successor's position. Hyuk Ryun Woon pondered in his mind whether Sang-Kwon-Hu's concern was genuine. Reflecting on the fact that Sang-Kwon-Hu wasn't a major character in the novel, he found himself considering the possibility of convincing him. Hyuk Ryun Woon decided to speak honestly to Sang-Kwon-Hu, expressed his serious intention to participate in the competition for succession. Sang-Kwon-Hu, astonished, shouted, questioning if Hyuk Ryun Woon was crazy. Hyuk Ryun Woon retorted that he was indeed crazy and needed Sang-Kwon-Hu's help from now on, leaving Sang-Kwon-Hu in shock. Hyuk Ryun Woon then shared with Sang-Kwon-Hu his intention to change the absurdity within the divine demon sect, particularly the focus on the eldest son. He highlighted the camaraderie among the younger sons, including the formation of the Four Heavens Gang, as a way to enjoy life. Emphasizing that the younger sons have little purpose in their lives, he expressed his desire to challenge and alter this absurdity. Hyuk Ryun Woon acknowledged the difficulty of the task and stressed the importance of survival in the succession competition to bring about change. He then turned to Sang-Kwon-Hu, stating that he needed a true friend who cared more about him than anything, and affirmed that Sang-Kwon-Hu was that friend. Hyuk Ryun Woon admitted that he couldn't achieve this goal without Sang-Kwon-Hu's help. In response, Sang-Kwon-Hu, emotionally moved, grabbed Hyuk Ryun Woon, expressing both frustration and tears. He declared their commitment to building a divine sect without discrimination and assured Hyuk Ryun Woon of his unwavering support. Observing Sang-Kwon-Hu's reaction, Hyuk Ryun Woon questioned if he had gone too far. Seeing this reaction, Hyuk Ryun Woon pondered whether the people around him were more trusting due to being from the past or if it was a characteristic of the martial art novel world where individuals seemed to be particularly gullible. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed gratitude to Sang-Kwon-Hu, stating the old saying that a trustworthy friend is more valuable than 10 talented generals. He conveyed his reassurance at having Sang-Kwon-Hu by his side. In response, Sang-Kwon-Hu, still emotional, thanked him for thinking so highly of him. Sang-Kwon-Hu then inquired about Hyuk Ryun Woon's next plans, expressing understanding of his feelings but also his doubts about winning the successor's race. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that there was something he needed Sang-Kwon-Hu's help with before they could tackle the succession race. Eager to assist, Sang-Kwon-Hu told him to go ahead and state what he needed. Hyuk Ryun Woon grinned, appreciating Sang-Kwon-Hu's readiness to assist. We then shift scenes and we see Hyuk Ryun Woon standing over multiple chests of gold. He remarked that Sang-Kwon-Hu proved to be more useful than he initially thought. Reflecting on how he couldn't dispose of the luxury items even after converting most of them into cash, Sang-Kwon-Hu managed to get rid of them all through his extensive network of wealthy connections. As he gazed at the chests, he estimated the value to be around 10 billion won, wondering just how much the past Hyuk Ryun Woon had taken from his mother's side of the family. With the ammunition ready, it was time for him to move on to the next phase of his plan. We switch scenes and find Hyuk Ryun Woon and Sang-Kwon-Hu sparring in the training room. Hyuk Ryun Woon threw a flurry of punches that Sang-Kwon-Hu managed to block, and then he countered with a kick. Hyuk Ryun Woon dodged and commented on how cool the counter was. Sang-Kwon-Hu responded by asking if that's all he's got. In response, Hyuk Ryun Woon dashed towards him, intending to deliver a devastating punch to the face, but just as it was about to connect, he stopped it. After the exchange, Sang-Kwon-Hu sat on the floor, acknowledging that he can never win against Hyuk Ryun Woon, suggesting they take a break. Hyuk Ryun Woon told him to rest and continued practicing alone. Sang-Kwon, who then expressed his disbelief, stating that no matter how many times he sees it, it's unbelievable. He added that if Hyuk Ryun Woon did what he's doing now back when they were in the heavenly demonic pavilion, he would have graduated as the best. Hyuk Ryun Woon responded by saying that he was too busy playing around back then. Sang-Kwon, who then recalled that in their childhood, Hyuk Ryun Woon was praised as a martial genius from heaven. Hyuk Ryun Woon smiled when he heard this. The narrative then took a glimpse into Hyuk Ryun Woon's childhood. He was seen practicing martial arts in a field as his mother looked on. The scene shifted to a sparring match with another child whom he defeated. Happy with the win, he turned to get acknowledged by his parents. His father praised him as the divine cult's martial genius, stating that he was the second coming of the heavenly demon. Young Hyuk Ryun Woon seemed quite happy to hear this. The narrative then shifted to a scene with heavy rain, showing people walking with what appeared to be a casket. There were persons crying, and young Hyuk Ryun Woon was seen there crying out for his mom. From this point, Hyuk Ryun Woon fell into emptiness and lost all desire for martial arts training. He began doing everything half-heartedly, seeking easy tasks, picking on the weak, and spending time with women and booze with the other members of the Four Heavens gang. However, after Lee Si-woon took over this body, the emptiness transformed into a drive for survival, and now the real Hyuk Ryun Woon is back. Hyuk Ryun Woon was talking to himself, expressing his determination to go back. Sang-Kwon, who overheard and asked what he was saying. Seemingly surprised that Sang-Kwon, who heard him, he replied that he was merely speaking to himself. He then shared that he had another favor to ask, and, when asked what it was, Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that he wanted Sang-Kwon, who to introduce him to someone. When Sang-Kwon, who asked who, Hyuk Ryun Woon whispered the name in his ear. After hearing the name, Sang-Kwon, who was surprised and asked if Hyuk Ryun Woon was out of his mind. Hyuk Ryun Woon affirmed that he definitely was, and Sang-Kwon, who just stood there in shock. We are then introduced to the illustrious Heavenly Wolf Group, one of the three central combat forces in the Sun-Moon Divine Cult. Representing the epitome of strength, this elite unit attracts the most formidable members of the Divine Cult. Among them, Sa Bu-sien stands out as the group's best archer. We then switch scenes and we find Sa Bu-sien approaching the entrance of a building. As he reflects on how Sang-Kwon, who contacted him, he contemplates the fact that several years have passed since their graduation from the Heavenly Demonic Pavilion. Sa Bu-sien wonders about the reason behind the invitation to such an upscale inn, considering Sang-Kwon, who is aware of his modest background. As he contemplated, Sang-Kwon, who emerged to greet him warmly. A hug was exchanged between the two friends, and during this embrace, Sa Bu-sien recalled that Sang-Kwon, who was never one to prioritize status or wealth. Expressing joy at seeing him, Sa Bu-sien inquired about how long it has been since their last meeting. However, he couldn't help but notice Sang-Kwon, whose remarkable physical condition, prompting him to question why he was in such exceptional shape, considering Sang-Kwon, whose usual motto of training in moderation. As Sang-Kwon, who was about to respond, another voice called out to Sa Bu-sien. Hyuk Ryun Woon appeared, greeting him saying long time no see. Sa Bu-sien looked visibly shocked at the unexpected encounter. On seeing Sa Bu-sien's enraged reaction, Sang-Kwon, who commented that he knew this would happen. Hyuk Ryun Woon, still bowing nervously, observed the situation. Sa Bu-sien appeared absolutely enraged, and Hyuk Ryun Woon couldn't help but wonder why he was feeling such intense murderous intent from him. He recalled that the Hyuk Ryun Woon from the past had been a bully to Sa Bu-sien in the Heavenly Demon Academy. We now see flashes of the past, observing Sa Bu-sien's history. He is on the floor as Hyuk Ryun Woon, accompanied by his friends, calls him a poor transfer student and tells him not to block the way. Hyuk Ryun Woon's friends laugh at the scene, and as Sa Bu-sien looks up, a silver coin is thrown at him. This enrages him. Seeing this reaction, Hyuk Ryun Woon states that he's only helping out a beggar and teases Sa Bu-sien, asking if he wants to hit the cult leader's son. Hyuk Ryun Woon tells Sa Bu-sien to keep the money and walks away with his friends. Sa Bu-sien took up the coin, his face engulfed with rage, fueled by the humiliation and disdain he experienced at the hands of Hyuk Ryun Woon and his friends. Sang-Kwon, who placing his hand on Sa Bu-sien's shoulder and asked if he was harassed again by Hyuk Ryun Woon. Sa Bu-sien expresses his determination that when he graduates, he will make sure Hyuk Ryun Woon disappears from his sight. He mentions that once he graduates from the academy, he will become a member of the esteemed demon sect, gaining the right to request a duel with anyone. When that time comes, he vows to beat them to death and pay back the favor. Sang-won-hu looks on, a bit surprised by Sabu-seon's resolute determination. Returning to the trio's encounter, the atmosphere remained charged with animosity. Sabu-seon, consumed by rage, confronted Sang-won-hu, questioning whether his desire was being fulfilled that day or if he was still in the process of selecting someone for the nasty trash Hyuk Ryun Woon to play with. Sang-won-hu attempted to calm down Sabu-seon, but the latter remained undeterred and charged towards Hyuk Ryun Woon with the intent to attack. However, just as Sabu-seon was about to strike, Hyuk Ryun Woon fell to his knees, causing a momentary pause in Sabu-seon's aggression. Sang-won-hu, surprised at this, called out to him, and Sabu-seon looked at him and noted how Hyuk Ryun Woon's manipulative tactics had evolved. Hyuk Ryun Woon, still kneeling, reminded Sabu-seon of the significance of this act in the divine demon sect, as it symbolizes an admission of defeat. Sabu-seon, unswayed, expressed his indifference towards Hyuk Ryun Woon's theatrics and demanded an explanation for his actions. Hyuk Ryun Woon, understanding Sabu-seon's anger, pleaded with him to listen for a moment, hoping to provide context. Sabu-seon scoffed at his plead, deeming it as absurd, and proposed that if Hyuk Ryun Woon could handle his triad Chuseok, he would grant him a second. Sang-won-hu, observing this, thought Sabu-seon was being irrational in suggesting such a challenge. He doubted Hyuk Ryun Woon's ability to contend with the triad expert of the Heavenly Wolf group, considering them the strongest in the divine demon sect. Hyuk Ryun Woon smiled and expressed gratitude for the opportunity and bowed. In a sudden move, Sabu-seon launched a punch towards Hyuk Ryun Woon, who narrowly evaded the attack. Hyuk Ryun Woon realized the severity of the situation, acknowledging that it would have been disastrous if he had been struck. Sabu-seon was surprised that he managed to dodge, and he persisted, delivering another punch, but Hyuk Ryun Woon skillfully dodged once again. Seizing the moment, Sabu-seon grabbed Hyuk Ryun Woon, forced him to the floor, and Hyuk Ryun Woon was shocked that he got caught. Then Sabu-seon prepared another punch and declared that it ends here. As Sabu-seon launched the punch, Sang-won-hu, fearing for Hyuk Ryun Woon's safety, screamed out his name. As Sabu-seon looked at his victim, he was surprised as Hyuk Ryun Woon miraculously blocked the punch, leaving Sabu-seon astonished as he wondered when Hyuk Ryun Woon had undergone such training. Hyuk Ryun Woon looked up and then told him to give him some time, and Sabu-seon told him that it would be exactly 1 minute. Sang-won-hu said that now that everything is over, he should please listen to them, and asked everyone to get inside the inn. Hyuk Ryun Woon was on the floor with his hands shaking and was thinking about how he only managed to block the last punch with just sheer luck. The three men were seated at a table, and Hyuk Ryun Woon called out to Sabu-seon, expressing his need for Sabu-seon's strength. There is then a brief moment of silence at the table, and then Sabu-seon, not understanding, replied saying that he didn't get what Hyuk Ryun Woon was saying. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that the Heavenly Wolf group of the Divine Demon sect primarily used swords and spears, which weren't Sabu-seon's specialty. Sabu-seon, feeling slighted, asked if Hyuk Ryun Woon considered bows cowardly. In response, Hyuk Ryun Woon reiterated that he was definitely in need of a coward's skill right now. Sabu-seon, angered by Hyuk Ryun Woon's words, expressed his desire to fight him again. However, Sang-won-hu intervened, restraining Sabu-seon. Sabu-seon lashed out at Hyuk Ryun Woon, accusing him of talking nonsense and criticizing his way of speaking. Hyuk Ryun Woon clarified that he didn't intend any disrespect with the term a coward's skill and urged Sabu-seon not to misunderstand his words. In the Divine Demon sect, where the pursuit of superiority through swords and other arms is highly valued, archers are often looked down upon by the warriors. Hyuk Ryun Woon emphasized to Sabu-seon that his archery skills were invaluable and could dominate the midfields. Both Sabu-seon and Sang-won-hu were taken aback by this revelation. As Sabu-seon was about to leave after the agreed 1 minute, Hyuk Ryun Woon called out to him and asked if Sabu-seon planned to let his talent go to waste. Sabu-seon said yes, he does. Hyuk Ryun Woon then shared his plan to create the strongest archer unit in the Divine Demon sect, surpassing even the Heavenly Wolf group, with Sabu-seon as its leader. The revelation left Sabu-seon in a state of shock, freezing momentarily. Still skeptical and angered, Sabu-seon questioned if Hyuk Ryun Woon was once again looking down on him and if this proposition was merely another attempt to deceive him. Hyuk Ryun Woon then unveiled 3 boxes to Sabu-seon, who inquired about their contents. Hyuk Ryun Woon opened one of the boxes, revealing its contents. He reiterated to Sabu Sian that, in such situations, money usually appears and promised to provide 3 more boxes. Sabu Sian grabbed Hyuk Ryun Woon and questioned if this was his plan to humiliate him. Hyuk Ryun Woon urged him not to misunderstand, emphasizing that he wasn't making fun of him. He reassured Sabu Sian that he genuinely intended to create a real archer unit, acknowledging Sabu Sian as the person with the most outstanding talent with the bow among those he knows. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that he took the risk and came to meet him again for this purpose. Hyuk Ryun Woon then informed Sabu Sian that he intended to become the successor of the Divine Demon sect, leaving Sabu Sian in absolute shock. Sabu Sian then commented on how he initially thought Hyuk Ryun Woon was just a moron but realized he was a mad guy. Hyuk Ryun Woon agreed, stating that if he's already considered crazy, he should at least do it properly. Sang Kwan-ho asserted that Hyuk Ryun Woon wasn't just crazy. When Hyuk Ryun Woon pressed for clarification, asking, "Then what is he?" Sang Kwan-ho quickly responded, "You're a massive lunatic," and the two burst into laughter. Sabu Sian keenly observed Hyuk Ryun Woon and remarked on the transformation in his eyes. They were no longer the dull eyes from when he was at the Heavenly Demon Pavilion. Right now, his eyes were filled with unwavering determination. Sabu Sian sat down at the table, surprising both Hyuk Ryun Woon and Sang Kwan-ho. Hyuk Ryun Woon joined him, taking a seat, and asked if Sabu Sian was finally changing his mind. Sabu Sian told Hyuk Ryun Woon that his choice to sit down had nothing to do with gold. Instead, he brought up stories he had heard about people changing after experiencing death and coming back to life. This idea caught Sabu Sian's interest, and he found himself contemplating just how much Hyuk Ryun Woon might have changed. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed his thanks, telling Sabu Sian that regardless of the reason, he appreciated it. They then poured themselves some alcohol. After a few sips, Sabu Sian admitted that no matter how much he thought about it, it was hard to believe that Hyuk Ryun Woon would make such an offer to him. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed full understanding and offered a sincere apology for the events at the Heavenly Demon Pavilion, openly admitting that it was a result of his own immaturity. Despite the apology, Sabu Sian stated that he still didn't trust him. Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about what he could do to earn Sabu Sian's trust. In response, Sabu Sian made it clear that he would only start trusting Hyuk Ryun Woon if he learned to shoot an arrow from him. Hyuk Ryun Woon was taken aback by this request. Observing Hyuk Ryun Woon's surprised reaction, Sabu Sian thought to himself that it was as expected, as he believed that no one can change that easily. The scene transitions to Sabu Sian practicing archery. Behind him, a younger version of Hyuk Ryun Woon mocks him, ridiculing his use of a bow and implying that using a bow is not manly. The taunts escalate as Hyuk Ryun Woon weirdly asks if Sabu Sian can really get it up in the night, prompting laughter from his friends. Unfazed, Sabu Sian continues his practice. As Sabu Sian releases the arrow, the scene seamlessly transitions to his childhood. In a brief glimpse into Sabu Sian's childhood, we see his father removing an arrow from the target he shot. Young Sabu Sian, awestruck, couldn't help but comment on the amazing display of archery skills. In response, his father turned to him, affectionately rubbing his head. Sabu Sian's father, the first archer in the Divine Demon sect, took immense pride in his bow. It wasn't just his father's source of pride, it was also a symbol of Sabu Sian's own pride. As he reflects on the past, the irony strikes him as he observes Hyuk Ryun Woon, who once disdained and insulted his bow, was right before him with a radiant smile. Sabu Sian couldn't help but wonder about the reasons behind this unexpected change in Hyuk Ryun Woon's attitude. After the flashbacks, Hyuk Ryun Woon asked Sabu Sian if learning to shoot an arrow from him was all he needed to do. He expressed a genuine interest in understanding the bow and asked Sabu Sian if he could teach him about it. Sabu Sian, shocked by this unexpected request, questioned whether Hyuk Ryun Woon was serious. In response, Hyuk Ryun Woon said yes, he's serious. Sabu Sian was so astonished that he grabbed a bottle of alcohol and turned it to his head. After having a drink, Sabu Sian slammed the bottle on the table and, with a determined expression, told Hyuk Ryun Woon that he would teach him in depth about what a bow is. Sabu Sian handed the bottle to Hyuk Ryun Woon, instructing him to drink up. Hyuk Ryun Woon accepted the bottle, turned it to his head, and took a swig. Sang Kwan-ho, witnessing this, displayed a surprised expression. After a sigh of relief, Sang Kwan-ho remarked that it was fortunate that things ended well. Hyuk Ryun Woon then passed the bottle to Sang Kwan-ho, insisting that he should also have a drink. Sang-kwon-hu tried to refuse, citing his weakness to alcohol, but Hyuk Ryun Woon grabbed him and compelled him to take a drink. After forcing Sang-kwon-hu to take a drink, Hyuk Ryun Woon declared that they should drink and die together. The next day, Sang-kwon-hu and Sabu-seon found themselves in a room. Sabu-seon woke up and was looking around, and as he got up he had a pounding headache. He then tried recalling the events of the previous night. He remembered grabbing Hyuk Ryun Woon while calling him a punk, and Sang-kwon-hu, in the midst of drinking, advised him to stop. Sabu-seon, still inebriated, confronted Hyuk Ryun Woon about the suffering he had caused him. Hyuk Ryun Woon apologized, and Sabu-seon also remembered dismissing Hyuk Ryun Woon as a lunatic when he expressed his desire to start an archer unit. As Sabu-seon reviewed his actions towards Hyuk Ryun Woon, he reflected on the fact that, regardless of any changes in Hyuk Ryun Woon, he remained the fourth young master of the divine cult. Sabu-seon considered that he might have lost his cool in dealing with him. He was particularly surprised that, despite consuming a bottle of alcohol, Hyuk Ryun Woon didn't lose his temper in response to the treatment Sabu-seon was giving him. As Sabu-seon pondered, someone came in and asked if he was up. She informed him that his meal and clothes were ready. He told her thanks and expressed his desire to see the fourth young master first. Blushing, the girl informed Sabu-seon that Hyuk Ryun Woon was practicing with the bow in the training hall. This revelation caught Sabu-seon off guard, and she told him to follow her to witness what was happening. Arrows sailed through the air at the training hall as Hyuk Ryun Woon practiced. His disappointment was evident as he missed the target. Sabu-seon arrived, and Hyuk Ryun Woon greeted him and asked how his night was. Sabu-seon replied saying that it was fine. Hyuk Ryun Woon then admitted that he was training in his own way but wasn't making progress. He sought Sabu-seon's expertise, asking for pointers. As Hyuk Ryun Woon demonstrated his stance, he questioned if it was incorrect. Sabu-seon assured him it was not, explaining that the stance was commonly used for hunting and therefore was not incorrect. Impressed, Hyuk Ryun Woon remarked on the expected prowess of the demonic dragon archer, revealing he had recently learned it from a skilled hunter. Sabu-seon praised him, saying that he was doing great, then curiously asked about what a demonic dragon archer was. Downplaying it, Hyuk Ryun Woon said it was nothing, then asked him to demonstrate the stance again. Sabu-seon took the bow and assumed the stance. Observing Hyuk Ryun Woon found it incredible. Sabu-seon released the arrow, it sailed through the air and it hit the target with precision. Impressed, Hyuk Ryun Woon applauded the display. Sabu-seon explained that hunting and attacking postures differed, assuring Hyuk Ryun Woon that with practice he could master it in no time. Hyuk Ryun Woon then requested Sabu-seon to teach him right now. Sabu-seon explained that he had a joint training session with the Heavenly Wolf Group in the afternoon, suggesting they could have their lesson afterward. Surprisingly, Hyuk Ryun Woon declared that starting from today, he wouldn't attend the Heavenly Wolf Group training anymore. Confused, Sabu-seon asked what he was talking about. Hyuk Ryun Woon reminded him of the contract they signed the previous night. He mentioned that Sabu-seon committed to leaving the Heavenly Wolf Group to join the new unit he was forming. A flashback revealed the night's events where Hyuk Ryun Woon urged Sabu-seon to sign the contract quickly so they can go back to drinking, while Sang-kwon-hu cheered him on, telling him he's doing great. Sabu-seon, now recalling the moment, was shocked by the realization. Hyuk Ryun Woon presented the contract to Sabu-seon, who, while examining it, inquired about the down payment and his salary. Sabu-seon expressed surprise when he learned that his salary in the new unit would be 10 times more than what he received from the Heavenly Wolf Group. Hyuk Ryun Woon smiled, then explained that it was only fitting to compensate a talented individual appropriately. He emphasized the numerous welfare benefits outlined in the contract and encouraged Sabu-seon to carefully review them. He mentioned that the boxes had already been delivered to Sabu-seon's house as they were too heavy to carry. Hyuk Ryun Woon said he's counting on Sabu-seon and suggested they work together for the future of the divine cult. Sabu-seon was shocked by what transpired. Following this interaction, Hyuk Ryun Woon believed that his plan had unfolded successfully. He had enlisted the formidable archer known in the novel as the demonic dragon archer. In the original storyline, the demonic dragon archer was meant to become the left hand of the second young master, collaborating with the demonic tactician to create great challenges for the protagonist. Before Sabu-seon could assume the role of the demonic dragon archer, the main character had already killed Hyuk Ryun Woon. Consequently, their relationship was absent from the novel's storyline. Hyuk Ryun Woon reflected on the irony that Sabu Seon had suffered due to a narrative setting he didn't even write. Hyuk Ryun Woon sat on some steps and thought about how in the novel, after the second young master ascends to become the divine cult's successor, he enhances his power and establishes an archer unit known as the demonic dragon unit, gearing up for a war against the Murim alliance. At that time, Sabu Seon was appointed as the leader of the unit. However, recognizing that creating an archer unit without sufficient power or influence wouldn't match the might of the demonic dragon unit, he realized it didn't have to be exclusively an archer unit. This revelation prompted him to aim for the creation of the strongest special unit capable of handling any task. The next day, Hyuk Ryun Woon contemplated how to form the special unit. His thoughts were interrupted by Sang Kwon, who wishing him good morning, and Sabu Seon, who followed behind him. Welcoming them in, Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about the progress of everyone. Sabu Seon then stepped forward and handed him a list of skilled archers from the Heavenly Wolf group. Hyuk Ryun Woon then thanked him. Hyuk Ryun Woon then turned to Sang Kwon, who asking about the formation of the special forces. Sang Kwon, who explained that setting up a military group required a commander. When Hyuk Ryun Woon asked if having a master wasn't enough, Sang Kwon, who said it would work for a personal unit, but official registration with the divine cult involved many complex requirements. After hearing this, Hyuk Ryun Woon thought about the military unit facing a challenge. They wouldn't receive benefits from the divine cult. He reflected on the crucial requirements of an official troop, like operating costs, access to the training hall, and weapon supplies, and as they didn't have that kind of money, he pondered the next course of action. Sang Kwon, who suggested a solution, he said they could absorb an existing group within the Sun Moon Divine Cult. He explained that, besides the central army, the cult had various small to large groups. So setting up their own unit under one of these existing names seemed feasible. Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about the availability of a decent group. Sang Kwon, who assured him that there were indeed viable options, pointing out that Hyuk Ryun Woon should already be familiar with them. This sparked Hyuk Ryun Woon's curiosity, prompting him to question the existence of such a group. Sang Kwon, who then inquired if Hyuk Ryun Woon had forgotten, humorously pointing out that he, Hyuk Ryun Woon, was the one who had created it. Sang Kwon, who then said he was referring to none other than the notorious Four Heaven Gang. The revelation left Hyuk Ryun Woon stunned, contemplating whether this group of thugs was actually an official troop. Sang Kwon, who explained that the Four Heaven Gang was only established in name, and even though Hyuk Ryun Woon primarily covered their entertainment expenses, there were instances when they relied on subsidies from there. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed his surprise, telling Sang Kwon, who that he was unaware of this. Sang Kwon, who explained that it was because the real manager was Dampyeong, not him. Hyuk Ryun Woon then asked who was listed as the leader of the Four Heavens Gang and questioned if it was also Mok Dampyeong. Sang Kwon, who responded, stating that if Mok Dampyeong could be the leader, then anyone could be, suggesting that even Hyuk Ryun Woon could have been the leader if that were the case. He then said that Mok Dampyeong wasn't competent and likely hired an expert as a substitute. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed his frustration, stating that the situation had become troublesome. He informed the group that they needed to leave, prompting Sabu Seon to ask where they were headed. Hyuk Ryun Woon turned and said that they were going to see Mok Dampyeong. Sang Kwon, who, a bit flustered, questioned if Hyuk Ryun Woon intended to ask Mok Dampyeong to hand over the group. Hyuk Ryun Woon said yes and asked if he couldn't. Sang Kwon, who then inquired if Hyuk Ryun Woon had forgotten what kind of person Mok Dampyeong was. He described Dampyeong as someone who used the money from the group to indulge in women and drinks, and he doubted that Dampyeong would just willingly give it up. Undeterred, Hyuk Ryun Woon insisted that if Dampyeong wouldn't hand it over, they would have to make him. Sang Kwon, who suggested informing Dampyeong in advance and having a discussion over drinks. Hyuk Ryun Woon objected, insisting that they needed to go immediately. Surprised, Sang Kwon, who asked why, and Hyuk Ryun Woon, already walking away, urged him to hurry up. The scene transitioned and the trio found themselves riding on horseback. Sang Kwon, who voiced his concern, noting that Mok Dampyeong wasn't the type to willingly reveal himself. Hyuk Ryun Woon concurred, stating that asking nicely wouldn't work either. They needed to reach the Four Heavens Gang before Dampyeong went off to dinner and drinks, or it would complicate matters for Bu Seon. Glancing at Sabu Seon, Hyuk Ryun Woon was surprised at the peculiar expression on his face. He then looked away and remarked that they have reached their destination. Approaching the entrance, Hyuk Ryun Woon began to knock vigorously. An elderly man emerged, inquiring about the commotion and questioning the nature of their visit. As he was about to finish speaking, he suddenly gasped as he realized that it was the fourth young master. After recovering, the elderly man extended a warm welcome to Hyuk Ryun Woon, acknowledging him with due respect. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that the forceful knocking was a result of his haste and offered a quick apology. Seizing the moment, Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about Mok Dampyeong's whereabouts and was informed that he was currently having a meal. The old man then offered to send word, but Hyuk Ryun Woon declined and stated that there was no need, he'll just help himself. He then walked away with a menacing look in his eyes. The scene shifts to Mok Dampyeong seated at his table enjoying a drink. Suddenly, the door is kicked open. Pausing to assess the intrusion, he becomes visibly angry, stating that no one is allowed in until he finishes eating, and he hurls a bottle. Hyuk Ryun Woon skillfully catches the bottle, surprising Mok Dampyeong. Realizing that it was indeed Hyuk Ryun Woon, Mok Dampyeong was genuinely shocked to see him. Upon noticing Sang Kwon-hoo's presence alongside Hyuk Ryun Woon, Mok Dampyeong wondered about the occasion for their visit. Adding to his surprise, he spotted Sabu Seon in the group and directed a question at Hyuk Ryun Woon, asking why he was associating with that stinky trash. Upon hearing Mok Dampyeong's derogatory comment, Hyuk Ryun Woon was taken aback, realizing that Dampyeong was even more of a ruffian than he had initially thought. In response, he casually pulled out a chair, seated himself, and nonchalantly put his legs on the table and positioned himself squarely in front of Mok Dampyeong and shot him a condescending look. Mok Dampyeong, irritated, demanded an explanation for Hyuk Ryun Woon's behavior. Unfazed, Hyuk Ryun Woon retorted, stating that Sabu Seon was his right-hand man and despite his flaws, he wouldn't tolerate Dampyeong insulting his friend. Mok Dampyeong, undeterred, took another swig of alcohol and audaciously burped in Hyuk Ryun Woon's face. Internally, Hyuk Ryun Woon couldn't help but wonder how his past self considered someone like Dampyeong a friend and wondered why his breath smelled like a rotting corpse. Mok Dampyeong inquired if Hyuk Ryun Woon had eaten something bad and added a taunting remark about how returning from the dead appeared to have messed him up. He then picked up his smoking pipe and questioned why Hyuk Ryun Woon brought that low-level trash there. Hyuk Ryun Woon informed Mok Dampyeong that their purpose was to reclaim the Four Heavens gang. Stunned by this revelation, Mok Dampyeong asked for clarification on what exactly they were there to take back. In response, Hyuk Ryun Woon reiterated, specifying that it was the Four Heavens gang they sought to reclaim and firmly instructing Dampyeong to hand it over. Enraged, Mok Dampyeong rose from the table, hurling insults at Hyuk Ryun Woon and branding him an asshole. He questioned if Hyuk Ryun Woon was attempting to provoke him and inquired whether he aimed to join the successor race. Unperturbed, Hyuk Ryun Woon affirmed, revealing his intention to elevate the Four Heavens gang into an official military unit affiliated with the East Star Palace. Mok Dampyeong burst into laughter upon hearing Hyuk Ryun Woon's ambitious plan. He scoffed at him, urging him to wake up and reminding him that he couldn't achieve such feats. Disparaging him as trash, Dampyeong declared that he lacked the qualifications. Unfazed, Hyuk Ryun Woon interrupted, insisting that all he needed to say was, "I got it." This proposition shocked Mok Dampyeong, prompting him to react aggressively. He grabbed his pipe and swung it at Hyuk Ryun Woon, who effortlessly stopped the attack with just his finger. Hyuk Ryun Woon calmly reiterated that all would be forgiven if Dampyeong uttered the simple phrase, "I got it." However, Mok Dampyeong defiantly shouted back, warning Hyuk Ryun Woon not to mess with him. In an attempt to assert dominance, Dampyeong threw a punch, but Hyuk Ryun Woon effortlessly stopped it, showcasing his formidable abilities. After effortlessly stopping Mok Dampyeong's attack, Hyuk Ryun Woon, fueled by anger, declared that words alone weren't sufficient for Mok Dampyeong to comprehend. Mok Dampyeong looked scared and was sweating beads after he said this. Hyuk Ryun Woon, fueled by rage, wound up and delivered a resounding slap across Dampyeong's face. Seemingly shaken, Dampyeong protested, but his objections were met with another forceful slap. Hyuk Ryun Woon took charge, sitting on Dampyeong and continuing the relentless smacks. Sabu Seon and Sang Kwon-hoo just watched as the scene unfolded. Overwhelmed, Mok Dampyeong begged for the assault to stop, yet Hyuk Ryun Woon insisted that the key words were crucial and demanded Dampyeong to say, "I got it." As he prepared for another slap, Mok Dampyeong finally surrendered, shouting out that he got it, bringing the onslaught to an end. After the relentless ordeal, Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about the leader of the Four Heavens gang. Struggling to speak with a swollen face, Mok Dampyeong revealed that the head was Kang Dae-shik. This revelation left Hyuk Ryun Woon a bit surprised. After concluding their encounter with Mok Dampyeong, the three men were outside, preparing to leave. Hyuk Ryun Woon couldn't shake off his thoughts about Kang Dae-shik. He turned to Sang Kwan-hu and asked if Kang Dae-shik wasn't originally associated with the Dark Shadow Band of Assassin's Troupe. Confirming Hyuk Ryun Woon's query, Sang Kwan-hu explained that Kang Dae-shik was indeed a master of high-powered skills. He further revealed that Kang Dae-shik had faced unfortunate circumstances, leading him to work in the background for Mok Dampyeong. Hyuk Ryun Woon shared his thoughts, commenting that it seemed like a waste for Kang Dae-shik to be leading such a mediocre troupe. Sabu Seon, filled with excitement, asked if they were planning to confront Kang Dae-shik as well. Hyuk Ryun Woon, however, mentioned that he was hungry, suggesting they postpone that plan for later. Internally, he reflected on the recent encounter, considering how nervous he felt in front of Mok Dampyeong. He pondered the importance of having learned the scale armor technique, realizing that without it he would have lost a finger. And even though Hyuk Ryun Woon employed the Nine Moons divine art during the confrontation with Mok Dampyeong, he found that it inflicted minimal damage. Reflecting on this, he concluded that his martial arts skills were still incomplete. Recognizing the need for improvement, he was determined to get stronger. As the sun rose the next day, Mok Dampyeong shouted for Hyuk Ryun Woon to come outside. Mok Dampyeong continued to shout, accusing Hyuk Ryun Woon of cheating by launching a surprise attack. He stood with a group of men behind him, appearing ready for a confrontation. Seemingly annoyed, Hyuk Ryun Woon got up and questioned Mok Dampyeong's expectations, especially after bringing Kang Dae-shik into the situation. As Hyuk Ryun Woon descended, a muscular man approached him, inquiring about the truth behind Mok Dampyeong's accusations. He warned that the situation could escalate based on Hyuk Ryun Woon's response. While casually setting his hair, Hyuk Ryun Woon replied that if Mok Dampyeong wanted to label it a surprise attack due to his lack of skill, then so be it. Upon hearing this, Mok Dampyeong instructed Kang Dae-shik to disregard Hyuk Ryun Woon's words and simply trample him, intensifying the conflict. Upon hearing Mok Dampyeong's instruction, Kang Dae-shik assumed a stance, readying himself for an attack. He then declared his intention to showcase his divine cult skills, and Hyuk Ryun Woon responded casually, encouraging him to proceed. Internally, Hyuk Ryun Woon mused about how a master like Kang Dae-shik was working for the likes of Mok Dampyeong, considering it a waste. Hyuk Ryun Woon asked Kang Dae-shik if he needed a weapon, to which Kang Dae-shik replied that he would likely lose a limb if he used one against him. Instead, he suggested Hyuk Ryun Woon should use a weapon. In his head, Hyuk Ryun Woon was thinking about how Kang Dae-shik seemed to be looking down on him. So, he said he'd fight without any weapons too. Kang Dae-shik explained that in Murim, weaker folks are allowed to use weapons against stronger opponents. He suggested Hyuk Ryun Woon go grab a weapon. But Hyuk Ryun Woon insisted it was okay and mentioned that it didn't feel right to fight an unarmed person with a sword. Kang Dae-shik remarked that it's been a while since they last met, but it seems Hyuk Ryun Woon's way with words has improved. Hyuk Ryun Woon chuckled and teased Kang Dae-shik, asking if he thought he was as skilled as his asshole master. Mok Dampyeong got upset upon hearing this. Kang Dae-shik said Hyuk Ryun Woon could make the first move. Seizing the opportunity, Hyuk Ryun Woon saw Kang Dae-shik's guard was down and dashed towards him, aiming to finish the fight in one go. As Hyuk Ryun Woon rushed towards Kang Dae-shik, his very presence seemed to distort, and suddenly he vanished. Witnessing this, Kang Dae-shik was taken aback, recognizing the move as the Ghost Steps technique of the Shadow Troops. He couldn't fathom why Hyuk Ryun Woon knew a technique associated with the Assassin's Troupe. Turning to check behind him, Kang Dae-shik found Hyuk Ryun Woon wasn't there. Just as a sound caught his attention, he quickly turned back around. Hyuk Ryun Woon reappeared right in front of him. Hyuk Ryun Woon then unleashed a charged-up attack known as the Nine Moons Divine Art x3, Black Buddha Palm Strike. The strike hit Kang Dae-shik's torso, and Hyuk Ryun Woon wore a fierce expression on his face after unleashing the powerful attack. Kang Dae-shik's eyes were dilated, and he spat up as the impact sent him flying backward. As Mok Dampyeong watched, he realized he was in deep trouble. The others who accompanied him looked on in fear as Kang Dae-shik tumbled to the ground. Mok Dampyeong stared at Kang Dae-shik on the floor, foaming at the mouth, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. Hyuk Ryun Woon strolled over and beckoned Mok Dampyeong to approach. With great respect, Mok Dampyeong went over. Hyuk Ryun Woon mentioned that since he delivered gang leader Kang to him, he assumed Mok Dampyeong wanted to join his new unit as well. Just as Mok Dampyeong was about to respond, Hyuk Ryun Woon gestured to slap him, causing him to flinch and fall silent. Hyuk Ryun Woon then put his arm around Mok Dampyeong's shoulder and said he'd happily welcome him and everyone from the Four Heavens gang, and Mok Dampyeong agreed, telling him to have it his way. Hyuk Ryun Woon called for everyone's attention and told them that from now on they are to listen to Sabu Seon's orders and start training right away. Sabu Seon, with a stern look, announced they'll be born anew from that day. Seeing Sabu Seon, the men got very nervous. As Hyuk Ryun Woon walked away, he wished them good luck with their suffering. The scene shifts and we find Hyuk Ryun Woon lying on his bed. Hyuk Ryun Woon reflected on the recent intense battle. He couldn't believe he survived, especially considering he never thought his combo of the Black Buddha Palm and the Nine Moons divine art after the ghost steps would actually work. The downside, however, was that he could only pull it off when the opponent's guard was down, making it impractical against a real master. Realizing the limitations, he set his mind to focus on survival for the time being, with the ultimate goal of returning home later on. A few weeks later, the gang members were seen in training. As they ran, counting 1, 2, Sabu Seon urged them to shout louder. One member, wearing an anguished expression, questioned why they had to go through all of this. Sabu Seon yelled back, asking if he wasn't going to pick up the pace. Sang Kwan-Hu, observing the training, noticed Sabu Seon's increasing reliability since becoming the unit's vice leader. The thought crossed his mind that Hyuk Ryun Woon could indeed become the successor. Just as he was pondering, Hyuk Ryun Woon approached from behind and advised Sabu Seon never to let those ragtags rest. Sabu Seon responded with agreement, saying, "Of course." While talking to Sang Kwan-Hu, Hyuk Ryun Woon mentioned that managing the group wasn't an easy task. He then revealed that he had come up with a new name for the Four Heavens gang, suggesting Dark Lion Unit. Sang Kwan-Hu expressed surprise, mentioning it was the first time he had heard a name like that. Hyuk Ryun Woon explained that he wanted to create a better future for the divine cult and felt the need for a completely new name. Hyuk Ryun Woon took out the unit's symbol to show it to Sang Kwan-Hu. Not quite grasping the concept of what a symbol was, Sang Kwan-Hu wondered what it could be. After looking at it, he commented on how he had never seen something like that before. In his thoughts, Hyuk Ryun Woon considered how he had sourced the design from the real world. Observing Sang Kwan-Hu's reaction, he noticed the sparkle in his eyes, indicating clear admiration. Sang Kwan-Hu was definitely impressed with the symbol. Hyuk Ryun Woon expressed to Sang Kwan-Hu that the unit was still too small. Agreeing, Sang Kwan-Hu mentioned that Sabu Seon had brought together about 30 archers but emphasized the need for at least 100 people to form a proper unit. Out of the blue, Hyuk Ryun Woon inquired about the Heavenly Demonic Pavilion graduation ceremony, questioning if it should be happening soon. Sang Kwan-Hu informed him that all the divine cult's talents were gathering there and questioned if he believed they would join. Hyuk Ryun Woon handed something to him and assured that with it, they would join. As Sang Kwan-Hu looked inside the book, he was surprised and asked if Hyuk Ryun Woon was serious. Hyuk Ryun Woon responded, questioning why he asked something he already knew, and requested his help in finding a blacksmith. At the Heavenly Demonic Pavilion graduation ceremony, a large crowd gathered. Multiple units were vying to recruit the graduates with enticing offers. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as a group of men entered the scene. The Dark Lion unit's symbol proudly waved on a flag as 4 men, clad in epic-looking armor, entered the scene. Whispers began to circulate about their identity. It was revealed that they were the Dark Lion unit, founded by the 4th Young Master. People were taken aback as they had never heard of such a name before. They then observed that the armor was made from dark iron. The revelation surprised many as they had never expected armor to be crafted from dark iron. The onlookers speculated whether this display of strength came from an outer Rahu family member, expressing surprise at the creation of armor from dark iron, a material as costly as gold. As Hyuk Ryun Woon observed everyone's attention, he couldn't help but feel pleased with the reaction and the curiosity surrounding the Dark Lion unit. Switching scenes, we find the men on the floor, completely exhausted. Hyuk Ryun Woon remarked on how he thought he was going to die. Sabu Seon, after experiencing the armor, expressed understanding about why dark iron wasn't commonly used for armor. Sang Kwan-Hu confirmed that they had done as Hyuk Ryun Woon asked and inquired if it would work. Hyuk Ryun Woon reassured him, stating that, of course, it would work. He explained that delivering a clear and intense message is the basis of marketing. Sang Kwan-Hu was left confused as he couldn't grasp what Hyuk Ryun Woon was talking about. Hyuk Ryun Woon dismissed it as nothing and suggested they wait, confident they would definitely get a response. In the morning, a massive crowd of recruits gathered for them to choose from, and Hyuk Ryun Woon looked pleased, realizing his plan had worked. Both Sabu-Seon and Sang-Kwan-Hu were shocked. Sang-Kwan-Hu asked if he planned to accept them all. Hyuk Ryun Woon replied that he intended to test their basic strength first and choose only those who proved capable. His goal was to create a special unit in Murim armed with state-of-the-art weapons never heard of before. Sabu-Seon and Sang-Kwan-Hu were excited at the prospect. In his thoughts, Hyuk Ryun Woon acknowledged that he had finished forming his private unit and now aimed to increase his influence within the family, and contemplated the importance of being ready before the protagonist Tae Mu Kwang's rival, the second young master Hyuk Ryun Jin.